Hi everyone, it's great to be here. I'm Lior. I manage Arbor Ventures in Israel, a global fintech fund headquartered in Asia. Every year we try challenging ourselves by thinking about the transformations in the world and the dominant players in it. So we asked ourselves, which are the world's largest populations? And learned that only 2 of them are countries. So what are the rest? The largest populations are no longer defined by governments, GDPs, or geographies, but by social platforms. By the way, when we asked this question last year, there were 3 countries on this map, so the US has dropped out this year. So when taking a deeper look at these companies' skills and the assets they have at hand, we see iTunes with over 800 million accounts and over 800 million credit card accounts. For every 75 messages sent on WeChat, there is 1 piece of physical mail sent somewhere out there in the globe. Amazon's revenues last year were at around 200 billion, the size of Greece's GDP. Alibaba sold 25 billion worth of products on one day, on Singles Day in China last year, which is equivalent to Estonia's GDP. So the scale of platforms is incredible, and e-commerce is booming and expected to double in about 4 years, and this is in trillions. Cross-border commerce until a few years ago was solely B2B2C. You had to go into a shop physically and purchase an item which was imported by the shop or by a third party they used. This market has shifted, and consumers have become importers today. These are some of the leading brands and their geographical originations, the leading brands and commerce sites. But for the consumer, this is insignificant. We shop seamlessly from any brand at any time with no limitations. So borders have faded, and the ones controlling the flows today are the companies, where you may take an Uber and shout out about it in a social platform, and the telcos will pick up that data and pass it on to other companies. There is significant interconnectivity workflow between these companies, and they're the ones with the assets, which has opened up new opportunities. One of them in an increasingly interesting market being Southeast Asia. So little about the numbers of this market. It is the 3rd largest market by population, dominated by millennials. Mobile devices have outstripped the population, which half of is connected to social media. With banking, credit cards, and insurance penetration at extremely low rates, this brings to new opportunities. And interesting to see, until a few years ago, there was very little tech and commerce in the region. So who's filling this void? Unsurprisingly, it's China. The large corporates are increasingly actively investing and acquiring companies in the neighboring countries in Southeast Asia. They are expanding their reach and capturing the Chinese traveler wherever he is, as well as ex-employees from these companies, initiating startups in the region, taking their experience and know-how, and starting new companies or similar ones and solving problems for these underserved markets. One example is Gojek, for example. What started as a copycat transport company in 2010 in Indonesia has become the largest unicorn in the country, valued at over $5 billion. The aggregation of flows of people and data of the company enabled them to build a very significant hyper-local transport, logistics, and payment company, covering everything from e-wallet to loyalty, wealth management, and even insurance. It has followed the Chinese path of becoming a large, powerful enterprise platform. This is just one example of incredible growth in the region. So Asia has really nailed business models for expansion, thoroughly understanding their potential user base, understanding what they're looking for, building sticky products that bring for extensive usage and high dependency, though lack some deep technologies and key components for these infrastructures. Israel, as we all know, is well known and successful at building cutting-edge technologies, and in recent years has proved also the ability to build large, sustainable, standalone companies, though often miss out on true expansion. Both approaches have proven themselves successful, but the combination of them will enable to bring much larger scale and growth, bringing the depth of the technology and the breadth of the business models and expansion. Asia is more open than ever before to working, partnering, and investing in Israel, with over $1 billion invested by China and Israel in 2016 before the government regulations and limitations, which are expected to be resolved within the year. 7 Chinese multinational R&D centers, which opened in Israel in the last few years, and extensive tourism growth from the region, and vice versa. I previously worked at Sequoia here in Israel, and 6 years ago, where I met approximately 1,200 companies a year, it was extremely rare to come across the mentioning of Asia in a company's deck. And today, I see more and more companies looking at Asia as their main or sub-market. And just as an example, 3 of our 4 portfolios here in Israel are somewhat active in Asia. So we are actually the largest Asia-based fintech fund. We invest globally in Asia, US, and Israel. And we have an incredible, deeply strategic network. Arbor's broad view of fintech encapsulates several subverticals, as you can see here. So how does it come in practice? This is an example of our network. The large circles are some of our portfolio companies. The companies dispersed in the map are some of the corporates that we've built incredible relationships with. Some of them also are investors. And these connections show some of the commercial transactions between companies and corporates, which Arbor helped initiate, facilitate, or guide along the way. If you look closely, these companies are across the globe, and so is our network. It's borderless. So we help our companies focus and help them and introduce them to the right target markets, wherever it is, whether it's the US, Asia, or both. And we've been able to build this network through our focus on fintech and making this a core strategic goal for the company. By being extremely close to the market on one hand, understanding their requirements and their different pain points and how it changes over time, and on the other hand, being extremely close to innovation, meeting startups, and cherry-picking the right companies that we truly believe in to answer these needs, we become a core facilitator and connector between these two, and we can amplify the entrepreneur's talent and company's potential and help make it reality. So that's just a little about us. Thank you very much.